Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics in the Cross, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. Of course, I'm one of your hosts for today, Cross, sitting alongside my co-host and partner in crime, Nitro, as always. Nitro, say hello to the lovely people.
What's up, good people? We are back on a Sunday.
Feels like it's been freaking forever since we've been together on this stream, man.
Why'd you have to go get sick, dude?
Why did you have to go and have a family? Hey, you started it, man. I mean, you were off the first half of me with your family, and I was off the second half dying.
For those of you who don't have kids, here's the normal process of getting sick. So, obviously, you as an adult have a really good immune system, right? Supposedly.
Or you think you do.
Or you think you do. So, one of your wee ones, as Cross would say, would get sick. It's going to get a little bit of a cough. It will progressively get worse, but they won't get too sick normally. And then it'll go away. And then, everybody's like, okay, I think we're good. And then you are on your deathbed for like a week. And then it just goes around the house. And then by the time everybody gets well again...
I was going to say, no, we've got like a special order in our house as well. Like, the kids all start to get it first. They all start to get hit with stuff. The three kids kind of pass the stuff about with each other. Then Jay gets sick. Usually in the midst of it. So at least at some point there's myself and my sick wife taking care of the kids. Which progresses at some point to me taking care of my sick wife and my sick kids myself.
That's fun.
I am not prepared for that on a fully daily basis. Like to take, because I'm usually at work during the day and stuff. So like to then transition to taking care of the kids myself while my wife is upstairs recovering. That's not a typical day for me. My kids are also psychotic, so it's like they're determined to push daddy to the breaking point, and they do on most days. Where the
kids have no concept of don't cough in my open mouth.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, so that's just gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like literally like it was a meme that used to go about like that. So I used to think I was good at not getting sick, and apparently I was just good at not having someone like sneeze in my eyeballs. And it's like it's a meme that was going around, but see when you've got kids, you realise it's true. It's very, very true because like that's just the case. Like,
I mean, cover your mouth. I scream it at the top of my lungs. Everybody's sick more times than I carry.
Yeah, but we're finally back from this. We're finally pretty much there. I'm almost fully recovered. Like my head's back in the game. I'm not dying on my sofa here in my office, which I was for like a week. I'm gonna tell you guys,
he sounded. I talked with Cross a couple times while he was sick, and he sounded awful.
Yeah, this is me sounding good. Even my throat is feeling better now. Like there's a little bit sore, and it's like even yesterday. Excuse me, I was drinking stuff and like it felt like anytime I swallowed, like had a razor blade in my throat. Yeah. And it's at the point where it's like this is one little bit that's sore, but it's kind of getting there. So like I'm pretty much over it. But I'm like, this has been insane. Like I literally would rather have had COVID again than this. Like when I had COVID, it was not as bad as this flu.
Yeah.
Like we all got hit with the flu. Everybody also got pink eye during it. The boys, my sons got ear infections. Jay and I got throat issues. Like it was almost like we all responded differently. Jay and Chat saying we survived the plague. Like that's literally what it felt like.
Well, I mean, your immune system is that much better because of it.
Freaking better be. Like literally for days, it felt like I was dying. For a good couple of days, I'm like, I must be dying. Like I must be. This is it. And Jay was the same when the first couple of days it hit her. She was feeling the same. Like that. This is death. This can only be described as like on the verge of death. It is so bad. And then you go through this weird period where your head starts to clear up, but your body still sucks. And then even at a certain point, it feels like your body starts to get worse. So like you've almost got a clear mind, but you can't like do anything.
Yeah.
But it's like going in opposite directions. Like what is going on? And I'm like, so everything for like the last weeks has just been like, nope, cancel. It's not worth it. I'm dying.
Yeah, you got to get the rest, man. That's crucial.
Yeah. So that's thrown off our whole schedule that I had for me, which was already kind of in tatters of trying to work around Nitro doing family stuff. I was like, okay, well, we can fit this in here and fit this in here, and then everything just went to pot for that. So we're finally going to be doing our Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness talk today, which...
Better late than never.
I want this in our archives. I want this to be in our archives, so people go back and look and stuff and give our actual thoughts on it. Our actual thoughts on the movie, our actual thoughts on what we thought of it, because we had a lot of thoughts on it, just like everybody that's seen it. But we're also going to do a kind of half and half show today. It's half and half going to be a review of the movie, but like we're a month on. Like if you've not seen the spoilers of the movie at this point, then you're like the last person that's not.
Yeah.
Like at this point,
I mean,
everyone knows what's going on.
this is the blanket warning ahead of everything. Like full spoilers, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a full spoiler cast for this, and this is also going to be, we're going to talk about the upcoming shows and the trailers we got for Miss Marvel. We got a trailer for She-Hulk. We got trailers for Thor, Love and Thunder, and where we're kind of feeling of like the MCU, because like we're a fair bit into like Phase 4 now.
Yeah, this is going to be.
We've had a lot of properties, so it's like we're going to start feeling out like, well, where do we feel like Phase 4 is going? How are we feeling about Phase 4 at this point? And where do we feel like this is going forward? Because we've got a lot of kind of thoughts around that.
This is going to be like a kickoff of the future of the MCU, with Doctor Strange basically being the jumping point. That's what we're going to be talking about today, including some of the shows obviously that have came out. But
yeah, so we're going to be talking like new stuff today, but it's more going to be at the end, because we're going to start off with Doctor Strange and then talk about like a lot of the trailers and stuff that have came out and a lot of the different stuff and our thoughts on that. And we're going to do that to kind of like transition into where it's going, because insanely, like, Marvel has got at this point got so many things going on. Like, we're just out of Doctor Strange like a month ago, but we've got Miss Marvel and we've got She-Hulk and we've got freaking Thor all coming out within the next few months. I just seen a poster released before we came on here of the I Am Groot like shorts that they're doing for Disney Plus are dropping in August as well. So there's 3 or 4 like movies and shows for the MCU all dropping in the next couple of months over the summer. Yeah. And that's not to speak about anything that's coming out, because there's still a bunch of shows and Wakanda Forever and all this stuff that's coming at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So like, there's a ton of stuff coming. So I think it's only right to kind of like address that stuff as well, because
we're going to talk about all of it. Dude, I saw Top Gun last night.
Yeah, how was it, man? How was it?
Dude, it was so sweet. It was so sweet. Obviously, Top Gun came out in '86. I was 3 years old. I do remember seeing it, obviously, because it made a huge impact on me when I was little.
Gonna make Nitro feel really old.
I had the aviator jacket, with the fluffy collar and everything. Like,
gonna make Nitro feel really old and tell him the Top Gun came out in freaking '86. I wasn't even born yet.
Well, shut up. But so the new one with Tom Cruise, obviously, man, it's so good. The flying scenes in that movie are just ridiculous. See, and I was reading about how they did it. Because it looks like Tom Cruise is legitimately flying jets, like for real, not even joking.
I would be surprised at this point, like after the whole Mission Impossible and him hanging on the outside of the plane, like I wouldn't be surprised for this if he just went, yeah, I'm just going to go get flying lessons and just learn how to fly a jet.
Well, he has his pilot's license. He got it in 1990, so like he flies these little jets around. Like,
so he did. That's right. He got it years ago. That's right. I forgot about that.
So what they did was the jets that he was flying in the movie are 1-seater jets. But what they did was in the movie they had a 2-seater jet, but they reskinned it via CGI, made it look like a 1-person jet. And they had the camera over the pilot's shoulder, so they showed, or right behind his head rather. So they showed Tom Cruise look like he was flying it, but he actually wasn't flying it. But it was so good, so good. That's
cool, man. I'm glad it's a success, because it's one of those ones like when you say like '86, the first one came out, we're now going to do like the sequel to it, and it's like that's got the potential to be really good or really bad. There's no middle ground when you're doing a sequel to like a popular famous movie like that this far later. And like this could have bombed horribly, but I've not seen it, but I've heard amazing reviews for.
Well, it touches on the theme of quote unquote legacy sequels, right? You have Ghostbusters Afterlife, you have Mad Max, the one with
Fury Road, yeah,
and then you have this one where they're not a slave to the old movie, but they pay homage to it. But
but it's like a proper legacy to it.
They progress the story in a natural and fulfilling way. It's really cool the way they do it.
And that's cool and I do love when you get a good movie that does that. A movie that actually pays homage to where it came from, but also does try to make it new and take it different. Yeah, like that's. I literally had that rant with you via Marco Polo this week, talking about comics. You were talking about comics that we've been reading and stuff that we've picked up lately. Yeah. And you were saying that's some of the stuff you've picked up from Marvel and DC, and from Marvel at least, like you're picking up like the Donny Cates run of Venom and stuff and all that. And I'm like, I can't remember the last time I properly picked up a run of Marvel and DC. Yeah. Like that I properly got excited for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
literally, there's certain runs that I want to check out and want to see how the writing is, and amazing writers working on them. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But like the prospect of picking up Marvel and DC on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis at this point is like, it's hard to get invested, because it's all going to be reshuffled and put back. All the toys are going to be put back in the toy box at the end. So it's like, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, so when I first met you, I would definitely have called myself a comic fan. I would definitely, no question about it, I would call myself a comic fan. That being said, I didn't read a ton of comics. I was more of a fan of the culture and the art.
Yeah.
I loved comic art, and I would pour over comics for the art. That being said, since we've started this, and since obviously you and I have been going through
Since
a
I
ton of stuff,
corrupted you.
I've read more comics in the past 2 years than I had the previous 37. So I am a legit comic fan now. So, and I say all that to say there's a ton of really good runs, classic runs, that I never read, right? You know, The Death of Robin, Batman, Death in the Family. I never read that. I never read Court of Owls. I never read, fully read Lethal Protector. I never read, Hickman's run on Avengers. I never read a lot of those things. Secret Wars, none of that stuff. So, like, I feel like I'm playing catch-up. So that, when I talk about Marvel and DC, like, understanding that they are stale. They're stale, but there are some classic like stuff that I still need to read.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying Marvel and DC are awful. Like there's phenomenal runs by phenomenal writers and artists out there. That 100%. If anyone wants like what should I pick up from Marvel and DC, I can give you a list of stuff that I'm like, pick this up, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
Pick this up, you will not be disappointed. But like I have, since we started like the indie comic club, because I started kind of delving into indie comics when we started the indie comic book club back in 2020, and but like even since then, the stuff that I've picked up, like some of the books I've picked up, I could not have imagined how good some of these stories were, and how invested you can get in some of them in the direction they're going, and there's consequence to them. Like you're following a story knowing that, like if a character dies, like they're not just going to come back. If there's a change in the status quo, there's a reason and a purpose for it. It's not just going to change back. And it's I can't help but like it gets me more invested. I can't. Help
and
it.
it's cool seeing different, and I will argue more realistic take on superheroes. Like take a look at The Boys, right? Take a look at Homelander, who is basically Superman. I would argue that's how Superman would be in real life. If you had a dude who legitimately had unlimited power, there's no way he's not gonna be a sociopath. There's no way. There's no way.
Absolutely.
And like so I tend to I don't tend to gravitate. I like the comics like Invincible, where you have that whole family, you have those superheroes just going nuts. And I just like that type of like more like nuanced storytelling.
I feel like it's like that's the thing is like if you delve into the world of indie comics, like there's so many different comics with so many different takes on stuff and styles to it, and you're not going to like everything. Like I guarantee, like everything we recommend, we try to recommend the best of the best. We try to like look for the best, check out comics that have got a lot of popularity around them, comics that have got a lot of interest, and tell you what do we honestly think on them, in hopes of like finding you guys some really good comics.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, like there's stuff that we're not going to enjoy. Like there's stuff that I'm going to sit down and read that I'm truly. Well, that's it. Chew. Like I didn't mind Chew as much, but I know you were not a massive fan of it.
Yeah.
It's not at the top. It's not at the top of either. It's not at the top of either of our lists. It's not like one of the best comics ever. Yeah. I can't say I'm fully invested in it. Like I want to keep reading it. But
the 8th was probably some of the best comic book literature I've ever read. Which, if you didn't know, the 8th is one of the comics that Cross and I supported on Indiegogo, just without knowing really anything about it.
Always do your research on the comics you back. It's
funny because they released us a chapter at a time, and Cross and I would message each other after we got a chapter and saying, "Dude, did you see what we just got? Did you see it? Did you read it?"
No. We did that after like the first and second chapter of it. Like beyond that, we didn't. Like I don't know. We just stopped opening it. I'm like, I'm not even bothering anymore.
And then I forgot because we got the Mamma Jamma, like
we got like
$50 one, the hard cover.
I got invested in that, and it was so not worth it.
And I forgot that we had ordered it, and then it came in the mail, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, that went straight in the trash. That was not worth it.
I have it on my shelf. I paid for it. It's on my shelf. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't even keep it. I'm like, no, it's not even worth it. All right, so we've had a little rant to get back in. Sorry, we had to get back in the swing of things. We've not had a proper conversation. It's been a couple of weeks since we even had a freaking podcast, and you weren't even on the last one, let alone us doing one together. So I had to get back in the swing. So we are going full spoilers into Doctor Strange 2. We're going to delve into this today. Looking at the chat and everyone that's here, how is everyone doing as well? Good to see you. Just Me D, ads in chat. I love the life. Jay is in chat. If anyone else is there, drop us in a message, say hello. It is good to have you all with us today. But we are going to be jumping into some Doctor Strange, and I know we're late to the party on this one. I know we're kind of late, so what were your initial thoughts then, coming out of seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? What were your thoughts, and what were you expecting going in? And then what were your initial thoughts then once you came out? Because I think the movie we expected was not the movie we got, and I think that's how most of the fan base felt.
I'll tell you my expectations going into the movie, and then I'll tell you, because I messaged you right after I got out of the movie, which is typical. That's what we do. After coming out of Spider-Man No Way Home, that not necessarily being like a multiversal movie, but having multiverse aspects in it, and then going into a movie titled Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I had very high expectations, because Spider-Man No Way Home is probably one of my favorite Marvel movies. I think Endgame might top it, probably does, but Spider-Man No Way Home is probably one of my top.
And
absolutely, so I was, and maybe this is just, it's probably not good of me, but I was expecting it, Doctor Strange, to kind of be at that level. And I don't want to say I was very disappointed, but I was disappointed. I feel like they baited us, honestly. I really do. I feel like we were baited a little bit with the multiverse stuff. I mean, they obviously touched on the multiverse stuff, but nothing that really had wide-ranging impact outside of Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. Really. I mean, if you really boil it down, like, even the Illuminati stuff, like, she murdered all of them. Like, let's be real. Like, that had really no impact. That was just an exercise to show how powerful she was, which I didn't mind. Like, I'm all for Scarlet Witch being OP till the wheels fall off. I'm all for that. But I felt like, as a whole, as a movie, I feel like it dropped the ball, and they could have been so much better.
Yeah,
I liked it though. I liked it though. I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10. I liked the movie. I was just disappointed.
I liked it as well. I think I would say kind of the same, about a 6 or 7. It was decidedly average overall. Like, I think in my ranking of like Phase 4 movies, like, literally it's in the middle. Like, there's movies that I've not liked. Like, I liked it better than Eternals and Black Widow, but I definitely liked No Way Home and Shang-Chi more than it. So literally a rank's like right in the middle of the 5 movies we've gotten so far.
Yeah. So, do you like Doctor Strange origin story better than this one?
Yes.
Yeah. Same.
I like the first Doctor Strange way better than this.
Yeah.
I think that's it. It's like, I think I kind of agree with you a little bit. I kind of feel like with this we were baited a little bit, but not quite. Because, like, I don't think they baited us with it, but I just don't think they corrected us when all the fans started speculating, because they knew it was going to get people to the cinema. Because across 3 different projects in Phase 4, they started talking about the multiverse. They started talking about it in WandaVision. At the very end, it was heavily hinted, because she had the Darkhold and she was looking for her kids, and we could hear her kids' voices. So she was clearly starting to travel the multiverse looking for her children, which is obviously a big part of where this movie goes, so it obviously ties into that.
Yeah.
We then secondly got Loki, which 100% like basically told us the birth of the new multiverse, and set that up, and you know, whether or not that ties in and whatever and sort of thing, because Doctor Strange never really mentions it. Even in No Way Home he kind of mentions there's very little we know about the multiverse, and it's like, well, are they ignoring that the multiverse was birthed out of Loki, or like does everyone in the world just not realise that it's happening? It's just, oh, the multiverse has just always been there, or as far as they're concerned. But like, they were clearly setting that up, and the fact of like all the talks of like, you know, Kang the Conqueror and all the talks of that, and him setting up for a future movie, they clearly were setting something up with that. Then we got Spider-Man No Way Home, where both of those were completely ignored, and we got our own multiversal thing. And it was Peter trying to do this good thing, trying to make sure that his friends could get into the school and stuff like that, and it ends up like wrecking the whole multiverse, and Doctor Strange has to rewrite everything, and people forget who Peter Parker is completely. And it's like, okay, you got 3 points of massive intersection in it, and then at this point we already know Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is coming. The movie title's already been announced, and we know it's like one of the next big things. With him being in No Way Home as well, they seem to heavily hint that this could be part of this.
Yeah.
And then as the movie went on, like him going through the multiverse, and then it was like him meeting with the Illuminati, which, again, with the Illuminati, they were trying to make it look like it was this multiversal Illuminati from all these different universes coming together to deal with this big problem that he'd caused. And they did bait us in a little bit, but at the same time I think we were all like, well, this is going to answer all the questions. Like,
yeah.
Technically at no point did they say that, but they just never corrected us either when we all started.
Say though, like, what a waste of like some cameos. Like, that was like Ralph Boner level, like, in my opinion, almost, not that quite, because that was really bad, but almost at that level, like a waste of cameo. Like, you take a look at Spider-Man No Way Home. I know I'm running away real quick. I'll shut up in a second. But you take a look at something like No Way Home. You have Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and you have all the villains from there that played a crucial role in that movie. You know?
And then something like this.
At least for the most part.
And then like this, the Illuminati were literally just throwaway cameos.
Yeah. I'm just like...
At least they got a little bit of redemption for some of them, but it's like it was basically all throwaway stuff. And, and it's like, I think that's the thing. Like, coming out of it, like I said, it was a good movie. I think it's a good Doctor Strange movie. Like, if you take it as just a Doctor Strange or even a Doctor Strange Scarlet Witch story, it works. It works in that sort of level, I feel. The problem is, I don't think that's what anybody was expecting going in.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody was expecting this massive multiversal, like, trip into all these different worlds, all these different cameos, all this different adventure. The trailers made it 100% look like Doctor Strange had broke the multiverse with what he'd done.
Yeah.
And he was being held accountable for it. Which was a thing of like, well, he did this and it set this up, but we all thought we were going to see, well, actually, no, this happened here and this happened there and set this up, and none of that happened.
Yeah.
I do think as a Doctor Strange story, it worked. I think as a perspective on him. And they were clearly they clearly used it to shift his character, because like from the start to finish, like, he's a completely different character. Because even when it kicks off, it's like he's at Christine's wedding to some other dude, and then he gets and then they jump straight into like the multiversal stuff, and he's fighting Shumagorath, even though it's not Shumagorath because we can't say Shumagorath. It's like Gigantor or something like that, some stupid name. Also, as well, like, America Chavez, a massive part of this movie. There's barely in any of the advertising for this.
Yeah.
She's not a character though.
She's
a MacGuffin.
Alright, I don't know anything about the actress that plays her. I haven't seen her in anything else. So this is not me commenting on her acting ability. But I will say, as a character in this movie, I don't feel like she added anything.
She wasn't meant as a character, that's the problem. And that's the sad thing, is like, I feel like they had a potential here for a really good, like, small introduction to set up stuff for her. But they never used it as a character. She wasn't like a ride-along character. She wasn't a partner to Strange. She was a MacGuffin. She was a means to an end. She was a means of Wanda traversing the multiverse looking for her kids. And that Doctor Strange was trying to keep safe. That was the whole thing, because... This movie went like off the rails, because we start off with the fact that like there's a version of Doctor Strange trying to save her. He gets killed, and she ends up in 616, which I'm not even going to get into that. It's not 616 because that's the comics.
No, it's definitely not.
I'm like, really? We're going, okay, come on, Marvel, you're better than that. It's like, I know that one's a small minor nitpick, but I'm kind of like, that's the stuff that people usually catch when they're doing stuff for Marvel.
There's an interview from the actress who plays Kamala Khan where they asked her what universe that Miss Marvel set in, and she goes, "It's not 616. No, it's 19999. That's the universe for MCU." So she was basically correcting Kevin Feige, which I thought was hilarious.
But that's it though. Like, there's literally, if you go into the Marvel wiki, there's a literal like Marvel wiki like defined universe for the MCU. It's like it can't be 616 because that's the main comic one. It's like
Yeah.
Like, I just felt that was a stupid ball to drop that like you could very easily have corrected. Like, you could have just made up a number. You legitimately could have made up. Hey, Chuck, how's it going?
What's up, Chuck? So I will say, I think this movie had some of the best and worst visuals for Doctor Strange. Alright, in my opinion, that music note.
Hold on a second. Did a shout out for Chunk, and he doesn't have any clips yet, so. Because Chunk has started streaming, so I went to do a little shout out for him, but because he doesn't have any clips, our thing plays music.
Yeah, Mr. Chunk had his first stream this past Saturday. I tried to join on my phone because I was on a date night, so I was trying to do it on the low, but my phone wouldn't load your stream. But I followed you, bro.
But yeah, like I just.
Well, I was gonna say that. So the music, all right, in my opinion, and I heard the Infinity Bros talking about this in one of their streams. But in my opinion, that music note fight is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in any Marvel movie.
I see you posted about it. You hated that fight.
I'm not even exaggerating. That was the dumbest thing I think I've ever witnessed in a Marvel movie. And also that abomination of a CG third eye that they had on him in parts of the movie was just awful.
Look good.
That being said, that part where he takes over Defender Strange's body and he basically gets it possessed with these dark entities.
That looked amazing.
Freaking fights Scarlet Witch was one of the sweetest things in that movie, in my opinion.
I will say this for director Sam Raimi, like there are moments in this you can tell this is a Sam Raimi movie. You can tell.
Which I think those are the moments which I'm like, ugh.
No, but that's the thing though. Like Defender Strange is a zombie. Like no, that's a Sam Raimi moment. That's a horror movie moment. His horror stuff came through. Like all the stuff with Scarlet Witch, the whole zombie Strange thing, the whole fight between them. I'm like, him as a zombie version of himself with this cloak of all these demons, and I'm like, that's a Sam Raimi moment right there. Like there are moments where he did such a good job with it, and I'm like, I think one of my main issues for this was literally the case of. It felt like they tried to cram in the story that they wanted, and it didn't always take the progression that it was meant to. And then at other times, I think they played it safe. And first things with that are, I think my major issue with the whole movie is like Multiverse of Madness. We literally go to like 2 other universes. Like America Chavez and Strange do this like world jumping thing where she can't control her powers, but it launches them.
Yeah.
Through all these universes, and we see some really cool visuals and some really cool perspectives of these different worlds that are out there.
But we don't get to stay in any of them.
And we land in this world where it's like there's a couple of things a bit different, and it's a world we end up meeting the Illuminati in and stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. Problem is, that's like the only world we go to. The only other world we really see beyond that is when they go to like. I'm going to call him freaking Sinister Strange because it's Doctor Strange Supreme.
Yeah.
Which they heavily hinted at as well. Like, hey, this is Doctor Strange Supreme from the What If series. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's some other screwed up version of Strange, and it's like. But like, we never got to see the multiverse. We never got to play with that. We never got to adventure into all these out there worlds, and never got to see all these cool things. Like, you could have done so much random stuff. How cool would it have been if they went to one of these random worlds where all the main creatures are animals, or then they went to a world that was like an animated version of the multiverse, like a throwback to the 1990s cartoons and stuff. And but what if they did go into one and it was like live action panels of a comic or something, or like
you had so much you could have done.
Just go out there, background crazy with it. It's a multiverse. You could do some really cool stuff, and it looked like they were hinting at that, and then they never did a lot of that, and it was like, okay. And then of course the other big thing I think to talk about in the movie is Wanda.
I have some thoughts.
Scarlet Witch. There was talks long ago when this was first announced about Scarlet Witch being the villain in it. And then they started dropping trailers and stuff for it, and they very, very heavily hinted that like, oh, maybe she's the one like traveling with Strange through the multiverse, and maybe it'll be. And if she does turn a villain, maybe it's going to be a gradual thing. Like, you know, because she even hints at it a little bit. Like, because it looks like she's doing stuff with Strange, and then she hints at stuff like that. It's like, I do whatever I want, and they call me a monster. You do whatever you want, and you're praised. Does that seem fair to you? And it's like, okay, so it's going to be like a natural kind of like progression of like, does everyone get what they want except me? For Wanda, which would have been a really cool journey to see. We do not get that. Not even a little.
She goes straight from WandaVision, I've learned my lesson, to I'm going to murder everyone in the Sanctum Sanctorum.
She goes from learning her lesson of transforming this stuff and creating the world around her to get what she wants, to like, she can't do that, she has to deal with her grief, to saying goodbye to her kids and goodbye to Vision, to at the very end of WandaVision getting like hints of like maybe she's going to be corrupted because she has the Darkhold and she's using it to search for her kids. And it's like, okay, so this could start to play with her, and this could start to creep in to the point of we get to the like Doctor Strange's like second big scene, like he fights the big monster, gets America Chavez, we go to see Wanda, and it goes from him asking for Wanda's help to Wanda saying yes, why don't you just bring the girl here, to him getting suspicious to, oh no, she's got the Darkhold, she takes a reality bubble down that she's got, and the whole world around her is like decaying and evil, and like, and oh yeah, by the way, the monsters that are chasing America, yeah, I sent them. Scarlet Witch sent them. So not only has she went back crazy, not only is she completely corrupted by the Darkhold, not only is she destroying the world around her, but she's the one sending monsters after America to use her powers to try and go to another universe to be with her children.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like the freaking Anchorman meme. It's like, well, that escalated quickly. You know, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm like, you couldn't have, like, how do you go from like that end to that extreme just like that?
Yeah, so you look at the end credit scene in WandaVision where she's floating in the air, and then she hears Billy and Tommy say, "Mom." So they're obviously, it makes it seem, at least, that like they're in some sort of danger, and they're wanting her. So you go to this movie where they're basically living happily with a version of Wanda, like just in another universe. They're fine. And like I understand after seeing the movie and haven't had time to process and stuff like that, I understand the Darkhold was corrupting her. I get that. I don't think they did a good enough job explaining that in the movie.
I think they should have took the first half of the movie to show what it was doing to her, to show like it creeping in. And it's like, because the Darkhold is like, is one of those things that's meant to like creep in. Like, she's got this great power that's meant to be able to be under her control because she's the Scarlet Witch, and it's like, I feel like there was this disconnect between WandaVision and Doctor Strange 2, where it's like, we needed to have something else where we fully explored what the Scarlet Witch was. We got a very basic like definition from Agnes, which obviously, because like there wasn't a lot of time to explore that in full. Yeah. And she's at the beginning of that journey, but like I felt like we had to have like one more thing to explore what the Scarlet Witch actually is, what this prophecy, what the Darkhold actually says about her. Yeah. How the Darkhold ties into her and is part of her almost. And I feel like it feels like, you know, like if you come back to something like, oh, I didn't watch that show, or like, well, you're not going to have the information, or like, I missed that movie, well, you're going to miss this part of it. It feels like I missed something.
Yeah, I feel like there was a chunk of, not necessarily exposition, but something story-wise that was missing that would, like you said, explain that progression from the end of WandaVision, where she had like legitimately learned a valuable lesson as far as like, hey, maybe not, you know, mind control an entire town just to have some fake kids. 2, I'm gonna literally murder everyone in the Camartage in order to get these kids that really legitimately aren't even mine.
Well, that's it though, like, because she went from that conversation with Strange to like, no, she's protected, you're not going to get America, you have to stop this. And her next step was literally, okay, I'm going to find her. Goes straight to Camartage and just starts murdering wizards. Yeah. And showing her power, and I get like a part of it was like a display of the power of how powerful she's become, and I'm like, did we forget like 4 years ago, like movie wise, like in like almost 10 years ago, like in universe time,
almost single-handedly
during Infinity War, this woman legitimately destroyed an Infinity Stone Like, I feel like that's something that gets overlooked a lot. She legitimately was able to destroy the Mind Stone before Thanos reversed time. And then she was able to go toe-to-toe with Thanos on her own. And I'm like...
in Endgame, she had him. You know? One-on-one. With the gauntlet.
And it's like, she's powerful. She was strong then, and like, I get you're trying to get across her strength now. And I'm all for psychotic Wanda and doing her as the villain. It's like, I think Elizabeth Olsen, high praise to her. She did an amazing job in this movie. The way she portrayed the descent into madness, the way that she portrayed the grief of her kids, and like that, and how like badly obsessing over grief like that can drive you insane. It was very reminiscent of Doctor Strange Supreme from What If.
Yep.
Like he got so fixated on saving Christine and doing what had to be done to make that happen, that he didn't stop and think, wait a minute, what am I doing? And what are the consequences of it? It was very nice to see Wanda taking that journey. I think it was a great job. Elizabeth did a phenomenal job. Elizabeth Olsen, phenomenal actress.
And I will say, she's terrifying in this.
She is. Like, she has got an amazing like intimidation factor to her.
That one whole scene where she's basically in the universe where the Doctor Strange was killed by the Illuminati, and she's chasing them through those hallways. Dude, that's legitimately terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. She starts using this power from the Darkhold, where she can like inhabit bodies, other versions of herself. Because they start talking about this whole thing of like that, you know, multiverses. Like when you have dreams, you're actually seeing another multiverse.
Which I thought was a really cool concept.
Which, by the way, I have
really cool.
I have not had a dream the same since I heard that concept. It's like, I've woken up with dreams there, like, holy crap, that's a hell of a world I'm living in there. You know, it's like, but she also then uses this power to then jump into the body of a version of her, which is this really great kind of back and forth with this version of Wanda who does have her kids, in that universe where the Illuminati are. And
I just can't get over that creepy pancake song that those kids sang. I'm like, where did that come from?
Oh, it was so random. If you've not seen it, you need to see it. It's like, it's so bizarre.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so we focus a lot on this universe. In this main universe, like, it's the Illuminati instead of the Avengers. Doctor Strange was part of it. In the initial story we find is that he was killed during the fight with Thanos. Yeah. Which ends up coming out later. Actually, no, he kind of went mad with power with the Darkhold, and it was actually the Illuminati that killed Doctor Strange, but they allowed the lie of Doctor Strange was killed in the battle with Thanos to maintain the peace.
Which, speaking of that scene, like, I do want to talk about the Illuminati just for a hot second.
Oh yeah, well that's how I was building up to the Illuminati, because that's a big part of. I think that's one of the weaknesses of this movie. Not them themselves, although there are weaknesses to it, but the fact of like everyone that came out of seeing Doctor Strange 2 was talking about the Illuminati. Was talking about the Illuminati, and I'm like, when you're coming out of there and your main hero, that's the title card of the movie, and the main villain are not your big talking points, but essentially the cameo drops for a scene are the big talking point. I'm like, you've kind of done something wrong, I feel.
Yeah.
You know,
we had. So obviously, if you haven't seen the movie, and if you don't mind spoilers, again, we've been talking spoilers for the past.
Yeah, we're in full spoilers. If you've been on the internet in the last month, you've seen who was in the Illuminati.
So we finally got our Reed Richards and John Krasinski.
Did your theater cheer?
Dude, I said
he appeared and my theater erupted.
Oh yeah, dude, my theater went crazy. So obviously we have John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic showed up, which he may or may not be the main Mr. Fantastic going forward. I hope, because I really like him in the role. I think he's an awesome actor, and I think he'll do great.
That's a hell of a Ralph Boner like cheap bait if they give him as for the Illuminati, and they're like, oh wait, the MCU Reed Richards is someone totally different.
You have Haley Atwell as Susan Carter, Captain Britain, I guess.
Susan Carter? Who the hell's Susan Carter?
What did I say?
Susan Carter? Peggy Carter.
Peggy Carter, sorry.
Peggy Carter since like 2012, man. Like,
my bad. Peggy Carter, sorry. Who shows up?
Captain Carter, who It's very heavily hinted at from the What If show, but it's not that version of her. And we know that for a fact because that version of her is coming back in What If Season 2. Mm-hmm. Hey, Space Oboe. And this version of her is definitely not coming back.
Yeah.
We got her. We got... I kind of popped for this, and I know Az in chat's popping for it as well, because I'm a fan of the character in the comics, and the TV version that they made of him was awful, but they actually brought back Anson Mount, who played Black Bolt in the awful Inhuman show.
They gave him a proper costume.
Yeah. And he looked like Black Bolt from the comics,
sweet,
man. I thought he looked awesome.
They showed his power too.
They showed his power, like he was the one that destroyed Doctor Strange in that universe, like just with a whisper, and like blew him away, full blown power release, and I'm like, that was so cool to see him.
Yeah, that was really cool.
We got not Monica Rambeau, what's her name? Her mom.
Monica Rambeau, isn't it?
No, because Monica Rambeau is the daughter that's in WandaVision. Is she not, or is that different?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, whoever her mom is, it's in Captain Marvel.
Maria
Rambeau, that's it.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember her first name there. But Maria Rambeau, who we saw as the best friend of Carol Danvers in the Captain Marvel movie, she is actually Captain Marvel in this universe. Mm-hmm. Which I felt like was the weakest cameo, because everyone was kind of like all these big pops, like, hey, Anson Mount's back, oh my goodness, John Krasinski, oh my goodness, Patrick Stewart, and they're like, Maria Rambeau's back, it's like, yay. Was there a big call for her to come back? Like, but then of course, freaking Patrick Stewart
in Professor the yellow floaty chair,
in the yellow floating chair, with the little trill of music from the X-Men '92 themes.
Straight up 90s X-Men cartoon, like straight out of the cartoon.
It was so good. Like
the green suit, the striped tie, everything, man.
I popped for pretty much every member of the Illuminati, and I'm like, okay, I'm happy now.
When he came out and I heard the animated X-Men music, I was like, dude, this is like awesome. They're going
all in.
Childhood dream.
They're going all in for this, and then it's like, and not a one of them survives.
No, they all get murdered. So, yeah, I don't want to go through every single one, but every single one get brutally murdered.
Oh no, some of them we deserve to go through. Like, can I just say, by the way, it's like, I know people are like justice for Black Bolt because of the way he went out, but I'm sorry, like I literally was like when he died.
Well, all right, so you have Richard Reed, right?
Reed Richards.
Reed Richards. What am I, dude? I'm like
your brain just broke there for a minute.
It will not work. So Reed Richards, the freaking smartest man in the universe, apparently, proceeds to tell Scarlet Witch how Black Bolt uses his power. So she then uses that knowledge against Black Bolt.
He just has to say a word.
He uses power.
Mouth erased. Mouth erased, and then
basically blows his brains out.
Well, that's it. He tries to whisper and it reverberates back into his brain, and like his head just caves in. It's like I was left like, oh my goodness!
It was pretty brutal, though.
It was such a cool thing. Before we get to his killing, actually, I want to mention as well Reed Richards at this point as well, who's very much kind of heading up the Illuminati as they go to face Wanda. Mention of him having a wife and kids as well.
That was really cool.
So shout out to them, to Franklin and Valeria Richards, getting kind of off-screen mentioned, and I'm like, I'd love to see Franklin and Valeria Richards in the MCU, especially see what they do with Franklin, you know.
Yeah.
But he gets unraveled like a freaking, like one of those gum tapes, like all this ribbon everywhere. Like,
yeah, we do get to see him use his power a little bit, which is pretty cool.
It was cool to see. Cool. It was cool to see. We got to see a whole once before he was unraveled. And she
screams his guts out.
Yeah, I mean, she takes out the rest of them. She takes out Captain Marvel, takes out Professor X and all that. The other one I just have to mention specifically though is Captain Carter.
Yeah.
Because hurrah for Haley Atwell, by the way. That fight scene with Scarlet Witch, she was giving it her all.
She was.
Her and Maria Rambeau, like fighting their hearts out. Maria Rambeau gets taken out, and then freaking Captain Carter gets cut in half with her own shield.
Yeah.
That was a brutal death.
Dude, not to mention, all right, since we're going through every single one of them, we've got to talk about Professor X. So Professor X, bless his heart, tries to go into Wanda's head and like help her.
That was one moment when I was like, this is kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you're literally like the most powerful psychic in the world, dude. Come on.
Know. So he's in her head. He's in this basically this white room where you have legitimately Wanda under rubble, and he's trying to reach her and grab her, and then she gets sucked into the darkness, and then you see this red cloud coming from behind him, and this freaking like sharp tooth, white ashen face Wanda comes up behind him. She doesn't just break his neck; she rips his head in half. Which, if you pause it, like if people have screen grabs of the actual scene, and his head is legitimately ripped in half.
Yeah, can I just say this as well? Like, if there's a movie that you don't let your kids see for the MCU, this is this one.
Yeah,
stuff like that and stuff like zombies,
a horror movie,
and stuff like Zombie Strange and stuff like are 100% Sam Raimi.
Mm-hmm.
Like
legitimately a horror movie.
Because Sam Raimi does other stuff, but like, see Sam Raimi when he does horror, he does it well. And Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is 100% a horror-based movie. It has got such great horror elements to it. Like, it is legitimately, like, Wanda is terrifying in this. She is an unstoppable creature.
Yeah.
And they go through all the stuff, like, trying to stop them. They're trying to get the Book of Ashanti to stop her and all this stuff. And Strange ends up getting launched through to the other universe where he meets the not Doctor Strange Supreme, who's basically destroyed his whole world and starts to use the Darkhold he's got. He defeats him in Nitro's favourite fight from the whole movie. Throwing music notes at each other, fighting each other in classical music.
Yeah, you have the awesome opportunity to show two Doctor Stranges fighting each other who are just incredibly powerful, and you choose to have them throw music notes at each other. Like, really?
No, it's even worse than that though, because like what you've got is the second Doctor Strange v Doctor Strange fight in the MCU, because we've seen it already in What If.
Yeah.
So your goal is to look at that and go, "Hey, that needs to be topped," and you just
did not
even try to top it.
And when they hit each other, we're gonna play just pipe organ music that'll blow your head off, like.
But yeah, so if it ends off that Doctor Strange, Sinister, and uses the Darkhold, and he's got Christine with him the whole time, who I have not mentioned because there's basically been an afterthought in this conversation, because she's an afterthought in the movie for the most part.
She doesn't matter.
We get they're literally trying to give Strange a wrap up for this, because his Christine's like getting married. It's like, because like, can I just say, by the way, the whole Christine stuff is hysterical to me. Because the whole thing is he goes to her wedding, and then it's like the whole thing of like he's with this Christine and they're still kind of liking each other because she was in love with Strange in her world and he went nuts, and he's still in love with her, and it's the whole "I'll love you in every universe."
Yeah.
Only for that to basically be thrown away in the end credits when fricking Clea showed up.
Yeah.
Who, if anyone doesn't know who Clea is, played by the amazing Charlize Theron, that's Doctor Strange's wife in the comics.
Which I did not know that when I saw her. I was like, I have no idea who this chick is.
I was like, wow, we spent this whole movie trying to put to rest the Christine stuff and this whole weird back and forth, the Christine from another universe. Like, are they going to try and make it work? And it's like, and it was all rendered pointless.
Can we talk about the end credit scene just for a second now that you mentioned it? So you have I think there's two of them. No, wait, I'm not talking about the Bruce Campbell one. So at the very end of the movie, when he's walking down the street in his scarf, and he freaking flips out, falls to the ground, and the third eye appears.
Yeah,
so the very next scene shows him like with Clea, and it just pops up, and he's all fine. He's all fine about it.
And it pops up, and he's just into this, and it's like, yeah.
Like, all right.
I think that's
is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Like, what are we doing here?
I think it's showing that Strange is going to start playing a bit more grey with what he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because if you look into the comic stuff with Clea is from
the Dark Dimension, right?
Yeah, the Dark Dimension. She's not the daughter, she's the niece of Dormammu.
Okay.
I want to say niece. I might be wrong in that. Don't quote me on that. I'm not totally up on my Doctor Strange stuff. But I feel like Clea, I think she's the niece of like Dormammu and Dormammu's sister, who were like big beings like that. So it's like it's a hint of going into the Dark Dimension. It's a hinting towards that. Yeah, I didn't know that until I saw it in IGN video after I saw the movie. Yeah, that's the thing. Only comic fans caught who Clea was and the whole point of that. But like, it essentially like is setting up this whole dark journey for Doctor Strange. The movie, if you take it as a Doctor Strange movie, it's a great progression for him, because it's showing like he's no longer the Sorcerer Supreme. Why?
Yeah, that's a good point.
because he's now going on this journey into the darker stuff.
Yeah.
Which, you know, eventually he'll be Sorcerer Supreme again. Eventually, at some point in the comics, Clea became Sorcerer Supreme as well, and the two of them were together and married, and she led the Dark Dimension and all this. There's a whole storytelling stuff for this. Yeah. So it's opening up this stuff of Doctor Strange, which... Because we've only had one Doctor Strange movie that really dove into the other dimension stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, since then, we've had nothing but Strange around the Avengers. So I feel like this movie was more of a... It really was a Doctor Strange movie to progress him. And the fact of, like, well, we're kind of not doing a lot of the coming together Avengers stuff as much, and he's going to go off and do his story over here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take it as that, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just like we said, we felt like the whole thing, the whole MCU had been baiting us into the multiverse, and we felt, well, this must be the thing that's going to reveal it all and take us in there, and it just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, there was some really cool stuff in this. We got some cool stuff with the Illuminati, Doctor Strange, like using the Darkhold to take control of the Defender Strange's corpse that was in his world.
That was awesome.
And using the demons that were all attacking him as his new cloak, and like him and Wong fighting Wanda, like it was so cool.
Yeah.
But it's like there was a lot of stuff that just didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Like Wanda's journey at the start didn't make sense, although I did like her finale. I did like her coming to terms with it, and like talking, like the other Wanda almost forgiving her and her having to come to terms with the loss.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is I felt like we'd just done that at the end of WandaVision.
Right. That was the whole point of WandaVision. And
it was like, well, if you're going to go this road with Strange, why did we do that at the end of WandaVision? Why didn't you have her just go off, like, free the town, go off on her own, like, no, I'm not done, and make it very clear that she was going to continue this and continue in this dark path. And then at this thing, she like sacrifices herself at the end and kills herself and destroys the Scarlet Witch temple that she found and all this.
Can we just say that, like, she's obviously not dead?
Yeah, Chunk saying she's not dead.
Yeah.
What I think it is a case of, because Elizabeth Olsen has been very vocal recently about the fact of, like, she's loved working with the MCU, but she has had to miss out on major projects because she's been Wanda. This is, I think, so we can put Scarlet Witch on the shelf.
Okay.
To allow her to venture into other projects that might be available to her. But then we can also bring her back off the shelf when the time's right. And it's time for her to join us again.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like that's what we're doing with a lot of the older characters, is like, it's time to retire them. It's time to... We need to start cycling some of them out, because we're trying to do this stuff with these new characters, and it's like, either we're going to have to start cycling people out or change stuff around, or we're going to get very crowded. You know, that's why a lot of people are talking about Thor might be the last hurrah for Chris Hemsworth. That's why a lot of people are, you know, now saying that they feel like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 might be the last Guardians movie. You know, Dave Bautista's already said he's stepping back from that. Karen Gillian that plays Nebula has already said she's probably stepping back after that. So we're already hinting at a whole bunch of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like with Wanda, it's like she never really got her own like starring role until WandaVision in 2020, but she has actually been around since Age of Ultron. She's been around for a while.
Yeah. I just feel like I mean, looking back, and I know we're gonna kind of go into this a little bit in a minute, but just looking back at Phase 1 through 3, like, I felt like there was an overarching narrative to that whole period.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, I mean, not just Thanos. There was an overarching like team.
Everything felt like it
across
tied
across that whole first 3 phases, and like after you take a look at everything after that, it's just been like over here and I'm over there and I'm over here, and there's nothing that's like.
Well, let's jump into this side of stuff then, because this is a big talking point we wanted to talk about as well. So let's kind of wrap up the Doctor Strange thing then. So what were your kind of thoughts coming out of it then, with all this stuff with Doctor Strange? Like, is that something you would recommend to people? Do you think it's something that people should go check out? Do you think... Is it...
I mean,
is it a benefit to the MCU? Is it a detriment to the MCU? Like,
I think it has legitimately a little to no impact on the MCU, in my opinion. Now, Doctor Strange as a character, to your point, I never really actually thought about that. That's actually a really good point. Like, it really shows his progression to the more gray areas of magic, which I think is super important. because the Doctor Strange that I've read in the comics, like you're talking about Hickman's or Avengers run,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all that stuff, Infinity, all that stuff. Like he's very much in. I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to fix the situation, you know. And I don't know if we've seen that Doctor Strange yet, and so
he's hinted at that attitude, but he's never actually done it. Like in Infinity War, like telling Tony and they'll let him and Peter die, and rather than give over the stone, which obviously he didn't do because that was the one way to kind of beat everything, and the whole thing of like giving Spider-Man a tune out in No Way Home, but like still has feelings for the kid and wants to help him, and trying to make sure that they didn't have to go the path that they did. There was so much stuff that hinted at it, but he never really went that way, and I feel like we're going to start to see that, because like Wong's the Sorcerer Supreme now. He's taking care of Karmatage, he's taking care of all that stuff, so Strange is basically still a sorcerer though, and he's still free to do what he's his own thing, and I feel like that's what we're going to see going forward for him.
If you're a fan of Doctor Strange, absolutely you need to see this movie. Again, I don't feel like it has little to no impact on the larger MCU as a whole. I feel like the first Doctor Strange was a better movie, in my opinion. And I am with you. I feel like it's middle of the road. It's better than Eternals. It's definitely better than Black Widow. But I feel like Shang-Chi was
Shang-Chi is like one of my top favorite movies in the MCU. I feel
it's so good. It's so good.
But I would still recommend people check this out. I think it's got some great moments to it. I think it's got even just some of the visuals, even the multiverse that we do see, even though it's briefly, I think it's worth seeing. I think the whole stuff of what they do with Wanda in this, there's a lot of great moments in this with her, although I think the progression's too quick. If you take it from her already being insane, like there's a lot of great moments with her. As if you're a fan of Scarlet Witch, go see it. There's a lot of great Doctor Strange moments in it. And if you're a fan of like some horror elements in the MCU, or Sam Raimi and the work that he does, like if you love like Evil Dead and all that sort of stuff that Sam Raimi did, like he fits those horror elements in there and he does them well. They're done so well in this movie. I like it in that sense, and that probably helps make it better for me in a sense, because like it's doing something different from the rest of the MCU, and every time the MCU takes risks, I always really appreciate it. Because the MCU gets nothing but like smack talk from people about the fact of like it's all the same, and I'm like, actually when they do something a bit different, I love that they push boundaries. Like of course it's still a superhero movie, but there's definite horror elements in here. There's definite moments like I've seen people sneak their kids in to go see Avengers movies and stuff. Like this is not a movie kids should be getting snuck in to see. There's some really stuff in here that will freaking terrify them. There's some stuff in there that like you're like, wow, that's a bit freaky.
I mean, even Zombie Strange, like the way that he looked, he was like,
it was pretty gnarly. It was terrifying, but it looks so good.
Like there were a couple points in this movie, I'm like, this could easily be rated R. If you push this one scene a little further,
if they push some stuff, like absolutely. If he was allowed to, he could easily have done an R-rated movie for it.
Oh yeah, no question.
And just to wrap up the kind of Doctor Strange stuff, I do want to talk a little bit about America Chavez. We already kind of said she's not really a character in this as much as a MacGuffin, which I feel like is a detriment to her. I felt like the actress did really well with what she did. I felt like she did a decent job. I can't say she did badly in the role. But she was more of a MacGuffin for Wanda to go after and Strange to protect than an actual person. And like my biggest qualm with that is her story. We get a little bit of her backstory when they're travelling through the world of the Illuminati. There's like a shop you stand in front of and it shows memories. And when she stands there, it shows her powers activating when she was a kid and scared, and it sucked her moms. She had two moms, which if that was the whole gay controversy that was showing stuff in the Middle East and stuff like that, or showing stuff in China, it was like that. It's like, oh my goodness, they're lesbians. Like she's got two moms. That's literally it. They don't even hold freaking hands or anything. It's like it's a non-point to give her some sort of backstory. And they're sucked through the portal that she can't control, so she doesn't even know what world she's launched them into. And it's hinted at the fact that like if she gets better at controlling her powers, maybe she can find them. They might even still be alive out there. But hey, that's not a fun ending to the story, because
we're not going to talk about that.
No, because America Chavez at the very end of it, now that she can control her powers, which she does at the end, to help like wrap up the stuff with Wanda. Oh, you can control your powers now. What's the thing you think you would do? Like go after your moms who have been missing for like, 10 freaking years since you were a literal child?
Or train as a wizard.
You're a wizard, America.
Here's your sling ring.
It's like, literally, she's training at Carmitage, and I'm like, okay,
Why?
that's cool that you're training. Like, did we hint that she could do like magic at any point? Like, it's usually something that you have to be able to tap into. Like, I mean, we see that with freaking Ned in No Way Home,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, she's showing no magical ability, but we're going to train her as a wizard. And I'm like, you can control your powers. Are you not going to go look for your moms?
We're just gonna put that on the back.
Like the thing that you've literally been desperate to do in the hopes of controlling your powers, so that you can go and find them wherever they are in the multiverse. You can literally jump from dimension to dimension.
Yeah.
Nah.
We're not gonna worry about that.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm just
we'll
gonna leave that alone. It's like it's a
Space Nova.
decidedly average movie, I feel.
Space said, I wonder why they didn't use white vision. There was a lot of stuff I wonder why they didn't use, honestly.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because I feel like he would have been just shoehorned in, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. That's
like,
true.
you know, like, because that was her whole thing. Like, maybe you can set with one division, like she dealt with her grief with Vision, but she was still dealing with her grief with the kids. But she was legitimately dealing with grief with Vision. She actually lost him.
Yeah.
The kids were never real in that universe.
Mm-hmm.
Will Strange have magical powers before his accident? What do you mean, Space Hobo? I'm not totally sure. But yeah, it's like, so going forward with Phase 4, we've had a lot of stuff, and I think that's. Oh, you alright?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, I thought you said hold on there. I was like,
No, I said a ton.
a ton. Oh, I thought you said hold on there. Like, wait, what? What happened? We've had a ton of content, and to be completely honest, coming into Phase 4, and I'm just being candid here, if anyone is like completely against our opinions, it's like, more power to you. This is our opinions. It's our show. We're going to talk about like our opinions and our feelings on it. If you disagree with us, fantastic.
Totally okay.
That's perfectly allowed. If you want to have a discussion about it, that's perfectly allowed as well.
It's one of the cool things about the fandom.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about Phase 4, and we're not going to talk about it necessarily in the best of lights, so just forewarning in that.
Yeah.
Kind of like Nitro said, I feel like Phase 1 to 3, there was an overarching narrative.
And it wasn't just the Thanos narrative. I
feel like everything tied together, everything had little connections and little things that fit together that made it feel all part of the one big universe. And but you could almost say, like, I almost call this like the second era. You know, like this is like we had Phase 1, 2, and 3 is like, and this is Phase 4, but this is like era 2. This is the post Thanos era. Everything from Phase 1 to 3 was like era 1. And you can say, like, at the beginning of era 1, yeah, they were a bit rudderless as well, but the difference is that was the beginning of the MCU. They didn't know if it was going to make it. They didn't start making connections because half of them expected freaking Iron Man to bomb.
Yeah.
It was complete 50-50 if this was going to make them any money and if the company was going to be done right then and there. Coming into Phase 4, it's a brand new era and you're setting up brand new stuff. The difference is you've had the whole previous 3 phases to build off of on where you want to go. And I've said it before, like, Kevin Feige talked about them going on this retreat to like plan out the next bits of the MCU, and I'm like, that's awesome. My worriment is the fact of, like, in 2021 we kicked off Phase 4 and it made it sound like you haven't done that yet. And not to like try and kick at the MCU or anything, but like it feels a bit like it too. Because it feels like a lot of stuff going forward, like they didn't know quite what they were doing.
Well, even like, so I'll go so far as the back, like you said, 21. Like when they released WandaVision, I was blown away. Like I was like, all right, if this is how the Disney Plus shows and Marvel shows are gonna be, dude, I am in. Like, I'll take all my money. And then we had Loki, which again, in my opinion, was a banger as well. Like my wife and I just rewatched Loki. Phenomenal show. Awesome character study of Loki.
Absolutely.
And then you get to stuff like Falcon and Winter Soldier, that's where I started to feel kind of the disconnect. You felt it a little bit with Loki, honestly, the disconnect from the larger narrative of the MCU.
The difference with Loki, I felt like, though, was that that's the point of Loki.
It's true, yeah.
Because the whole point of it is he's in the TVA, which is outside of everything. And also, like, this is a different Loki going on a different path, because our Loki's dead. So that show's almost designed to take place outside of what's going on.
Yeah.
In a sense,
That's
which
true.
is how it kind of got away with it. The problem is, like, the rest of the MCU's not.
Well, yeah, you have Falcon and Winter Soldier, which, in my opinion, is the bottom of all the Disney Plus shows so far.
Yeah.
You have What If, which is close. I enjoyed certain aspects of What If.
What If got better with the final 2 episodes.
Yeah, but when you have like 6 to 8 episodes, and only 2 of them are good. And then you have Hawkeye, which I liked Hawkeye for what it was.
I loved that show until the finale, and then the final episode legitimately put it down the ranks for me. Like, that finale, I did not like it.
Yeah. So, like, you have all these shows that, like, in my opinion, are mediocre at best. And then you have, releases like She-Hulk, where they just released a trailer. I mean, the CGI's pretty bad. Like, it's like early 2000s bad, in my opinion.
Okay, and can I just say as well, I've had a lot of people defending, like, oh yeah, well, they can make it better for the show and stuff and all that, and they'll probably work on it, which they probably will.
Yeah.
I said this to you during the week, though, and I was like, my problem is, you're Disney.
Yeah. You have Disney money. You have overthrowing country money.
It's like the amount of money you've got, and the CGI looks like that, even for a trailer. Yeah. I'm like, come on. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry if this is a whole thing that, if anyone disagrees with me on it, but I'm like, you're Disney. This is Marvel. This is arguably the biggest movie property and franchise in history. Yeah. No other movie property has done what Marvel has done, has made the amount of money that Marvel has made, and that's the CGI you put out.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Like, it's not like you don't have money to make this amazing. Do you know how I know? I've seen Hulk. Even in 2012 in Avengers, even in the freaking Incredible Hulk movie, which came out in 2008, 2009, Hulk looks awesome.
Phenomenal. And I will argue that in Edward Norton's Hulk movie is the best Hulk we've gotten.
Yeah, it looks great.
I'll stand by that.
He looks great. Abomination looks great in the movie, and in recent showings of him, like we've seen, like in Shang-Chi, he looks phenomenal. And you're telling me that's what we're getting for She-Hulk? Like, I'm sorry, that's not an excuse for Disney.
So, I mean,
that's not an excuse for a company this rich.
So you got this mediocre looking She-Hulk, which it might be an awesome show, but their foot forward was not a good one.
Even the trailer wasn't amazing.
No. You have Miss Marvel, which, again, I don't know anything about Miss Marvel as a character. The show looks cool. I hear it's geared towards kids, which has me a little concerned. But then you have, like, looking back at the movies that they've released this phase, right? You have Black Widow. You and I have talked about this. 5 years too late. Off the bat, I don't care about it. Right? Yeah. And I hate to sound too harsh, but it is what it is. And you have Eternals. I enjoyed Eternals, but I get why people don't like it.
I wasn't a fan of it. It's
a boring movie. Yeah. Let's be honest. I get it. 100% I get it.
Yeah. You've got eternal creatures, and you've got a big thing rising out of the earth giving birth to it, and I'm like, how did you make that boring?
Yeah, I know.
Like, seriously, like, come on.
You have Shang-Chi, which I will argue is the most connected to the larger MCU than anything that's happened.
Not to mention one of the best movies in the MCU
as
well.
It's so good. It's such a cool origin movie.
I went back and watched it recently, and it's still good. It's so good.
You have Spider-Man No Way Home, again, arguably one of the better MCU movies that's ever been released. So you have those two bangers as far as movies go. But even Spider-Man No Way Home, not really a huge connection to the larger Marvel universe.
Yeah.
You right? I mean, would you agree with me on that?
I would agree. It's like, that's the thing. Like, the biggest connection is probably Shang-Chi. But the only reason that's got the biggest connection is the ending. Because, like, Wong comes out and takes him through the portal and stuff like that. And they talk with Hulk and they talk with Captain Marvel. And they're obviously setting up for him to have a big connection. The problem is the rest of Shang-Chi is, like, on its own. So it's like, it's not really connected. Spider-Man is kind of like Doctor Strange in its connection, in the sense of like it sets up the new status quo for Spider-Man in the MCU, of him like not really being known and doing his own thing now. So like that and Doctor Strange are very much a case of like they are connected, you know, because it's setting up the future of that character, but in terms of the wider world, not really. Eternals, it depends where they go. Eternals feels like the first Guardians, but it's like it's its own standalone thing. Depending where they go with it, will show how that connects. So I can kind of forgive that. I mean, and then Black Widow is their movie of like trying to tie in and show, hey, look at all this stuff.
Yeah.
Here's a gap that, you know, that wasn't really filled, and it's like we can use to fill it, and it's like, okay, and it's like, but I think the thing is though, is like it felt like phase 1 to 3 was building the connectivity of the universe, and
everything built on the thing that came before it. Everything.
I knew after Endgame that it was going to separate, because I had to. The whole thing was building up. The Avengers were there. We've lost major members of the Avengers. Like Thor's off on his own. Iron Man's dead. Cap's went back and lived his life. He's an old man now. The Avengers are pretty much done, and good on them. The Avengers have done their thing. They've done what they were here to do. They've literally saved the universe and taken out Thanos. And I'm like, they deserve the break. It's like, but now it's like you have the journey of setting up this universe. My problem with it though is like it doesn't feel like it's connected. Like even if you watch, see after the first Avengers movies, like going into phase 2, everything was separate still, but it felt like there was a connection. It felt like you knew this was going to have a role on Impact. Like, you know, Iron Man making choices, you know, like Thor doing his thing, you know, Cap doing his thing. Yeah, they were all going to have knock-on effects. And I feel like we're now like, without those characters, we've got all these other characters that are standing here, and I just don't know about the effect that they're having. Yeah. Everything feels like it's alone. And do you know what it's like? Do you know what it feels like to me? It feels like when the Netflix shows came out, and they started kind of at the very beginning. Do you remember at the very beginning of Daredevil, they kind of like, episode 1, they hinted at
it's
like
funny.
The Battle of New York and stuff, and
so my wife and I just started watching that show again, Daredevil. And I know I messaged this to you the other day, but just the difference between something like a Daredevil on Netflix and then you look at Falcon and Winter Soldier or a Hawkeye, and it's just like, it's not even, no pun intended, it's not even in the same universe as far as the quality of a show. And I'm not even taking the violence aspect out of it. I get that. I'm just talking about the story, the pacing, the cinematography, everything about the show is crisp quality stuff. And I take a look at the stuff, you know, we're getting now, and I'm not trying to crap on it, because we're
getting some good stuff. We're getting some
good stuff. But compared to what we have already gotten, I feel like it's subpar.
Let me ask you this thing, because I heard someone talking about this, and I kind of wanted to ask you about it. Do you think they're stretching themselves too thin with the amount of projects they've got now? Because Kevin Feige's been in charge of everything for so long, and he's had to have his fingers in every pie. He's a guy with the string over the board. We've talked about this millions of times. But coming into phase 4, like, there are so many projects happening now. There is no way that he can keep the same consistency across them all. Yeah, there's no way. We've had like literally just since after Endgame. You know, after Endgame, after Spider-Man Far From Home, that was the end of the phase. And when everything stopped for the pandemic. Since we came back, we have had like with Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings. We have had Spider-Man No Way Home. We have had Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We have had Black Widow. We've had Eternals. We've had WandaVision. We have had Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We have had Loki. We have had What If. We have had Moon Knight. We have had Hawkeye. We have got Miss Marvel coming out. We have got She-Hulk coming out. We've got Thor: Love and Thunder. We've got the I Am Groot shorts now coming out. We've got the end of the year we've got
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight. We've got Black Panther coming at the end of the year. Wakanda Forever. I feel like we've got another show. They're talking about What If dropping a second season before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Possibly something else, but even just at that, do you know how many projects that is? That's 17 that I have rattled off there. From the start of 2021 to the end of 2022, I have talked of 17 projects.
So the fan in me...
It used to be 2 to 3.
Yeah, 2 to 3 movies a year.
2 to 3 movies. 17 across 2 years. If you half that, even take it to 16. Okay, half 16. What's that? 5, 6, 7, 8.
8. Yeah.
8 projects. You have gone from 3 at most to 8.
Yeah.
You've added 5 more projects a year.
Mm-hmm.
At least, and that's the ones off the top of my head. They're very likely that there's still stuff coming out later this year I've forgotten about.
Yeah.
There is no way you can keep up the consistency that you had across 2 to 3 movies a year leading into this packed a schedule. And I'm going to be completely honest, like, as a fan, like, I'm excited, like, oh yeah, we're getting this show, and we're getting this show, we're getting this show. I'm not going to lie, like, I feel like the quality is dropping a little on quite a lot of them.
Agreed.
And it is making me less excited.
Yeah. I was going to say, as a fan, I'm like, bring it. The more, the better.
As a fan, like, I want to be excited, like, yes, more Marvel stuff, like, this has been amazing. But looking at it subjectively, like, and correct me if you feel different than me, but this is how I'm feeling on it right now. I know the fan base is wider and it's not based upon my own personal thing, but I'm like, I'm getting tired a little bit because there's so much stuff from Marvel to try and keep up with, as well as having a normal life. We try and keep up with this stuff for our job, and it's like, but it's almost like a full-time job to keep up with the Marvel stuff, and I'm like, but it's like I want to get into other things.
Yeah. Like
this last week, like I watched this last week, completely other different stuff dropped. Like Stranger Things dropped.
Yeah, which is
all that stuff.
Awesome.
Which was amazing. I cannot wait.
One of the
wait
best
for
seasons so far, in my
Cannot
opinion.
wait. I was so happy for that because I was not a big fan of season 3 overall. I thought it was a dip, and I'm like, I was really worried. And in season 4, phenomenal. So good.
Phenomenal.
So good. I am 100% a Steve Harrington stan, by the way. If he dies in the second half, I'm going to riot. Like, I thought he was about to die at one of those episodes, and I'm like, don't you fucking dare.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Kill him. One of the best things about this show now. But then even other stuff that Disney's bringing out, like the Star Wars stuff, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I've not even had a chance to watch it. Obi-Wan's now got 3 episodes out. I've not had a chance to sit and watch any of them.
It's really good.
Part of that is because I was sick, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I wanted to do that, and then like, oh my goodness, like I missed out on all the Clone Wars stuff. I'm trying to catch up on Clone Wars.
I know. Same.
Because Dave Filoni's like one of the guys running Disney's like Star Wars division, and all this stuff's coming in, and I want to see all the connections. I just hit parts in season 2 of that where they started doing all the stuff about Mandalore, and I was so hyped for it. This is stuff I've been waiting for, and I'm like, I want to watch that. The Boys just dropped on Amazon Prime, which
Crazy.
100%, guys, if you've not watched The Boys, I would recommend it. It is 100% adult content.
100%.
Be prepared. But like those 3 episodes, like, I'm sorry, Anthony Starr deserves every award in the world.
Yeah.
I said it on our like socials, like, for portraying the descent into madness that Homelander's going through. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then like there's other shows, like amazingly I want palate cleansers as well. Like I don't just want to watch superhero stuff.
Yeah.
Like on Prime Video, I finally just started. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. Don't ruin a thing for it, any of y'all. But I just started Man in the High Castle.
I haven't seen that.
Not watched it, and there's a lot of people that I've heard really praising it. And it's a whole thing of like if the Nazis had won. And take over like in basically 1960s like America. Like I'm only in the first episode, and I'm like, but it's nice to get a little palate cleanser to sit down with and talk.
Yeah.
And then, heaven forbid, I want to read a comic book. the thing I like legitimately, if I want to read a comic, I just started East to West, which I'm like, first issue in, by the way, read it. It's Jonathan Hickman. Jonathan Hickman is good.
He's a beast.
It's like, heaven forbid I actually have another interest apart from sitting watching movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Amazingly, I might want to sit down and play a video game.
How dare you?
You know, it's like I just started playing a video game off stream. When I'm not streaming, I'm like, I'm going to get into this, and like I want to read comics and do other stuff. Like, I get that like they're trying to get all the content, but like I feel like it's this never-ending draw.
Yeah.
To like get into this stuff, and it's like, and like the funny thing is that before I'd have been like all for it. If I've been saying this since phase 3, and like, okay, we're more content, like, yes, let's do it. But I honestly feel that there's been such a dip in a lot of the content quality. Like legitimately, the end of Hawkeye, like, felt like it ruined what was an amazing series. I felt like they just did not stick that landing. Yeah. Even with Moon Knight, the ending wasn't phenomenal.
See, I was in Moon Knight specifically, I was very disappointed.
The ending did not stick, and like that was, don't get me wrong, it's probably still my favourite of the shows, or at least one of my favourites. I still think there was a lot of great stuff they did in it because it did all the different stuff that I love. But like, yeah, the ending of it was not as on par as it could have been.
Let me ask you a question. If you think the quality for Phase 4, if it was as good as the stuff from Phase 1 through 3, do you think you would be more excited, or you still think you would be like, kind of, I'm kind of over the comic book stuff right now?
I think I'd be more excited. I think I'd still be a little bit fatigued in it.
Yeah.
Because that thing of like, oh, we're never going to get superhero fatigue, and it's like, well, yeah, because at the time you were running 2 to 3 movies a year. Like, I can do 2 to 3 movies a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, 8 to 9 projects a year, and I'm like, get over yourselves, come on.
Yeah.
Like, we have lives. I'm not going to sit at the throne of frickin' Disney, you know. It's like,
yeah.
I feel like if it was better quality, if it was still on par quality for the most part, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Phase 1 to Phase 3 are perfect. There are some there's some stuff that really does not hit well.
There's some crappers, let's be honest.
That I am not a fan of, and we've talked about it, you know, at length on this show. All the way up to Phase 3, there's been the ones that we've not enjoyed, you know, and it's like that's. But I think overall, the quality was good enough that it was keeping me invested. My problem is, I feel like, and I've said it to you plenty of times, I feel like Phase 4 is rudderless.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't even know like what they're pushing towards. Like the multiverse felt like a big thing, and it's like, but yet we're not really tapping into it as much. And like, are we really going to do Kang? It's like, well, if Kang the Conqueror's the next big bad, why is his next appearance in Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yeah, that
like,
doesn't make sense.
Where are you going to go with that? And it's like, are we doing the multiverse thing, or is this just another version of him? And then it's like fans have been crying out for Secret Invasion as a big storyline you could do to reset a lot of stuff.
But no, we're going to do a TV show and have it set during the blip.
There's going to be a TV series, and it's like, okay. But does that even make sense? Like, it's set during the blip, but we clearly at the end of WandaVision set up Monica Rambeau being recruited to work with Nick Fury, but that's after the blip. It's like,
I mean, so I have a slightly different take than you, although I understand where you're coming from. Like, I don't know if I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm just not really looking forward. And I'm not saying you said this, but I'm not really looking forward to the stuff that's coming out from Marvel, because I don't feel like it's interconnected or anything like that. But like, there has definitely been a noticeable decrease in quality, like noticeable. I mean, even take a look at Eternals, one of the first main movies outside of Black Widow that nobody cared about. Black Widow, let's be honest. But one of the first main movies outside of that when they came out, and like, audience gave it like low 70s.
Yeah.
On Rotten Tomatoes. Like, that was like, if you look at Phase 1 through 3, there was a couple movies that were around there, but that is unheard of for a Marvel movie almost, you know? And
I mean, that was bad. It was ranking at the point of being like the worst Marvel movie at that point, which going into Phase 4 was an unheard of, unthinkable thing.
If they're going to continue with the quality, and they're going to continue with this like divided, no overarching narrative, like, you need to start, in my opinion, they need to start pointing to a big threat. Whether that be Doom, whether that be Galactus, whether that be whatever. And that is going to give them an opportunity to pull a lot of different characters that they haven't shown yet into a singular storyline and have their own kind of stuff going on.
Actually, speaking of that, now that you mentioned that with Doom and stuff, I was thinking he's a good one to set up for, as I will always say. But even in Doctor Strange, they hinted at Secret Wars. They hinted at incursions of universes like colliding with each other and destroying each other, and the Illuminati are trying to stop it. And it's like, so they're hinting at Secret Wars stuff, but the thing is, there's so many like different paths that they've chosen all over the place that I'm like, is that actually the path that you're going? Are we heading towards a Secret Wars fight? Like,
yeah,
because that makes sense if you want to up the game from Endgame. Like, Secret Wars is a good way to go.
Yeah,
but like, are you actually going to head that direction? And it's like,
I mean, even like they introduced Kang, like one of the biggest villains in Marvel, and like they introduced him a year and a half ago. And they haven't said anything about him yet. Yeah, or a year ago, whatever. And they haven't said anything else. No more reference
to him, and it's like...
No more reference. I'm like, okay, so what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Let me catch him in chat a little bit here. Chunk saying, still haven't watched The Boys or Invincible. I understand if you boot me from the comic clan. Go to your room, Chunk.
Both are great.
Get in the brig.
Both are great. If you read comics, Chunk, I would read Invincible, though. I would read it.
Yeah.
As well.
The show paces differently for the comics, but like, yeah, it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
Space Hobo, they need to take a few years off to get a clear plan and come back. The fans will be more acceptable with something new. Honestly, yeah, it's not a bad idea. Just do a one-off every year of a character that doesn't get any screen time. I'm like, yeah, honestly, take it back to the basics and just a slow burn if you're going to do it, you know?
Yeah, I like your idea of cutting everything in half, basically. Just do half of the stuff that you're doing right now and just make it better.
Yeah. I think they made Eternals into 2 parts and focused one more on each character. It would have been better. Like, yeah, Eternals, I feel like they could have just done a lot more with the concept. It felt like it equated to a lot of just standing around.
Yeah.
In different, like, we went to different areas, but we all just stood around and talked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. The God Butcher in the all black quality is more proof that they need to, proof of the drop, in my opinion. And I think I said, like, the qualities. Some of this stuff is really good. One of the things I feel like they need to stop, and I know it's where they're exploring a lot of these new characters, but in all honesty, I feel like the Disney Plus shows are a distraction at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was a great idea to venture into all these other characters and do all this other stuff in Marvel that weren't going to get any screen time. But like, I feel like for the most part, these shows are just there. They don't totally tie in, and
it's like empty calories.
Yeah, it's like they don't tie into anything, and most of them aren't getting a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Space Opera, the new season of The Boys is good, man. But yeah, because think about it, because like WandaVision, like, see if we just transitioned from of Wanda being in her grief after Endgame to Doctor Strange 2 and didn't have WandaVision.
Yeah.
Legitimately, would we have really missed out on that much? Like, really, like, don't get me wrong, I love that show. I think it's a great storytelling tool. I think it's a great commentary on grief.
Mm-hmm.
But would anything have changed?
No. Not really.
Loki, another phenomenal show. What changed?
Nothing.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. End of Endgame, Anthony Mackie got the shield. Start of Captain America 4, he's Captain America. You could literally have kicked it off with the training montage from that show.
Have you heard him mentioned since then?
The only good thing that came out of that show, I think, was the whole Isaiah Bradley stuff. And that, which I thought was a really cool storyline. But the problem is, I'm never going to reference it again.
Yeah.
It's not getting a sequel. They're getting Captain America 4, but it's not getting a sequel. WandaVision's not getting a sequel. Loki is, but goodness knows where it's going.
Yeah.
What If is, but the whole point of What If is it doesn't tie into anything. The whole point is like stories of across the multiverse, so it doesn't tie into anything. You're not going to get much out of it. It's its own thing. But then again, that's what it was designed to be, so I can't be that mad. Hawkeye. It's not getting a second season. Oh wait, no, maybe it is. Oh, maybe it's not. Oh, we don't know. What did it really?
That show started off so cool, man.
It really did.
Because I
But it's
remember
like,
watching it at my mom's house for Christmas, and after the first 2 episodes, I'm like, dude, this is gonna be.
I was
awesome.
in.
I
I was
am in.
totally sold in this.
Yeah,
Right until the finale, I was sold in that show.
yeah.
But like, what's changed? We've had introductions across the Disney Plus, and do you know what all they've done? Set up possibilities for young Avenger characters, like Kate Bishop and like the kid that was with Isaiah Bradley that becomes Patriot or something like that. The young Avengers, and like Moon Knight. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. No connection
No
at
impact.
all.
No.
There's no impact on the bigger thing, and my problem isn't the fact that the shows don't have an impact. My problem is it doesn't look like they're going to. Everyone saw Midnight and went, yeah, let's do like a Midnight Suns or a Marvel Knights, and it's like, but there's nothing hinting that they're gonna.
Well, then you take a look back at Phase 1 though. You have Iron Man. What type of impact did that have? Well, it let you know that there are now superheroes, and they exist in the world. You take a look at something like a Winter Soldier. Yeah, this whole organization you thought that was protecting you was not protecting you. It was a terrorist organization.
It literally shook up the whole
everything.
world. Yeah.
Take a look at Thor. Holy crap, gods exist, and they just came down here. You know, like those movies had like legit impact on the larger narrative of the other movies, and that's something that you're just not seeing right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like I feel like now that we're out of Phase 3, is like I feel like the stuff's not having a narrative. I feel like the movies are. We're just getting stuff that ties into stuff, and it's going to have roll-on effects to other movies. Like Black Widow was filling in gaps of something that had happened, and it was setting up Natasha's sister. So like, okay, like I wasn't a fan of it. You and I are not fans of Black Widow. A lot of people were craving that movie apparently though, and it's like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Eternals, I feel like given time that's going to have an impact on more stuff.
Yeah.
But it's one of those slow burners. It burnt a bit too slow in my opinion, but it's one of those slow burners.
Yeah.
And like, okay, Doctor Strange, like, it's going to have an impact on Strange, and it's going to open the MCU up to a whole bunch of new stuff. Like with the Dark Dimension and all that, let alone the multiverse stuff that we kind of tapped into. Okay, fair enough. I can let it be what it is.
Yeah.
No Way Home, it has an impact because it affects Spider-Man going forward. And Strange and Spider-Man being different going forward will eventually impact everything else because it'll interact how they interact with other people. It'll impact how they interact with others, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's got an impact. It may be a small impact at the minute, but at least I can see the building blocks.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi definitely did. At the end, they set up him starting to become part of this bigger narrative, connecting with Hulk, connecting with Captain Marvel, connecting with Wong, and setting up this whole thing. So it's like there's stuff that they're setting up to.
Well, even Shang-Chi, you look at Shang-Chi, that picked up threads from years before in movies that had already been
The
out.
Mandarin.
And it ran with
Trevor Slattery is
And
one of the best things in that movie, and I'm like, how did you do that?
Well, it built on it. You know, it built on stuff that had come before. This is exactly what we're talking about. It took threads that were dropped in multiple movies, multiple things before, and it built on that. It made it better, and the outcome was another impact on the outside of it. You know, or the end of it rather. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and maybe, you know, in hindsight, looking back, we might not have seen the impacts of the movies in Phase 1, 2, and 3 right when they happened, but looking back on it, we're able to see it now, and maybe that might be the case for the
I pray
stuff
it
that's
is.
coming
I will
out
hold my
now.
hands up if it is. You know,
But,
it's like
you know, to be fair, a lot of this stuff has been out over a year. No lasting impact on the larger narrative. And I feel like I'm pretty accurate in saying that.
Yeah, and I feel like it's the start of a new era, but like, we're in a well-established universe at this point. I kind of want the wheels to get rolling. Chat saying I was hyped for Blade, but not so much now. And Space Hope was saying, you notice they're doing a lot of stuff with gods, like, yeah, even not tying into the whole Thor and God the God Butcher, like the whole stuff like in Moon Knight, tapping into the Egyptian deities. I still think Gore should have like came in and killed him, even if it was like even if it's just like an over the shoulder, like just seeing him walk in and then Moon Knight finds the room dead or something. Like if you did that, it would have sold it even more for me. You know, because I will say this, I know you're not a fan of his design. I still think Christian Bale looks like a cool Gore, and I still think he looks really intimidating.
I don't know, I just haven't just read the run.
See, that's it though. You're so fixed on it because you just read it.
I know, but
Well,
I'm not saying Christian Bale looks bad.
Let me put it this way: it's like, see with the bad CGI that you saw in She-Hulk, did you really want them to CGI his face with the freaking tentacles?
That's true. And I will say, Gore in the comics, if you do him wrong, probably is going to look a lot like Voldemort. So I get it.
See, that's the thing as well. I was thinking that it's like it's going to look too Voldemort otherwise. I do have to say, when he comes out in the trailer, see when he does that step out of the shadows thing, he has this quiet intimidation to him that I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And I love that everyone points to the picture of him like standing in the sunlight. Oh, it's just him with white skin. And I'm like, yeah, that's clearly a before. That's clearly before he goes mental and starts wiping out gods.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm hyped. Like,
yeah.
See just that, like him standing there, and then Thor, like, they come in here clearly in the shadows. I'm like, oh, I'm up for that fight.
Yeah.
Necrosword versus Stormbreaker, freaking bring it! I'm down for that fight.
Awesome. It could be awesome, and I'm not hating on the movie because of it. No. It's just like,
and don't get me wrong, Gore in the comics is a phenomenal design. He's a very unique design, and I do get your whole thing of like he's very human looking. Let's get some actual more like alien looking stuff, because like he's an alien.
Yeah.
He's meant to be different, and it's like, I still think he can pull this off, the intimidation though. I watched it and I'm like, he doesn't look like Gore, but dang, he's got that intimidation.
Yeah.
Christian Bale, like he's a good actor.
He's great.
I can't, fantastic. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever you think about the guy knows how to freaking act. He knows how to hold a room.
Yeah.
As long as somebody holds a light properly. I know it's been like 10 years, but like, I'm not letting that go.
Dude, yeah, he ripped that dude a new one, man.
He moved the light, he did his job. But honestly though, Christian Bale, like, he's a phenomenal actor. I mean, like, the man has such amazing range and such amazing ability. Whether it's, like him playing Batman, whether it's him like in, what was that movie where he got anorexic like right before he done Batman? Machinist. That was such a good movie too.
Yeah.
Where he was like that into madness, anorexic and sleep deprived. Whether it's something like American Psycho, where it's like, if you've never seen that movie, go see American Psycho. Bale in it is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's really
he's an absolute monster, but he's phenomenal.
Yeah. He plays an American Psycho.
Well done.
Sorry.
Wow. But like that's the thing though, like the project's coming up. I have to even say that though, like even for the projects coming up, I'm excited for Thor. Thor looks, and don't get me wrong, it still looks like it's got the quips and the funniness of Ragnarok, which I kind of feel you on that. Like, it's like Ragnarok is at that point where it's like it's pushing just a little too far. There's moments where it could have been it's like, no, that should have been a bit more serious.
Yeah, but I know you and I very, very slightly disagree on tonality when it comes to movies.
Yeah, because I know you're not a fan of like it going the full blown comedy for it. I do like the Thor comedy in it, but I will agree with you. There are moments where it definitely goes a little too far.
And he was amazing in Reign of Fire.
Reign of Fire, yeah,
he was freaking amazing in that.
That movie,
Butler, Matthew McConaughey.
That movie's just amazing in general. Like,
that's a sleeper hit, man. Nobody talks
see
about
if you
that movie.
See if you didn't tell me that was Matthew McConaughey, by the way, as the American, I would not have known. Like,
he's a beast.
Like, that's an amazing movie.
That's a sleeper hit, though. I'm a fan of Dragon movies. Dragonheart, Sean Connery. Thank you very much.
Love Dragonheart. I love
that movie. But Reign of Fire is phenomenal.
Reign of Fire is amazing. It's been way too long since I've seen that movie. So it's total side Tanya, but that's a great movie. Great cast as well.
I feel like Thor in Ragnarok is the best version of a Thor that we've gotten.
He is. I feel like that was the thing to get. I feel like if you compare him to the first two Thor movies, the first two, like, he was too serious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my perfect balance of him is probably actually Infinity War. Like the version of him, like where he wasn't too comedic.
Yeah.
There was elements to it, but like he's also serious as well. And but like I like Ragnarok because it is different, and I'll take Ragnarok because that's what kept Hemsworth in the role. Hemsworth was ready to be done. He was not wanting to do another Thor movie. The only reason we're getting Thor Love and Thunder is because of Ragnarok and because he's like on board with Taika Waititi. But I am more excited for that movie than anything else that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Like, I can't legitimately say I'm excited for She-Hulk. Miss Marvel, I am completely on the fence about.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't get why they changed her powers. Like, apparently it's better for them to animate and stuff, and I'm like, but like, this is her powers, is to stretch and change, and you've done stuff like that with Ant-Man. You've shown us doing stuff with that Mr. Fantastic. but you've changed her power to basically turn her into a Green Lantern.
Yeah.
She makes constructs and stuff, and I'm like, oh, listen, like, and I'm just like going off of Doctor Strange for that. Though, was like, are you scared to do the stretching thing? Because I know that can go really wrong if the CGI is not great.
Yeah.
Or are you just like so far against admitting that she's an Inhuman?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, literally in the comics, I feel like they would have turned her into a mutant instead of an Inhuman if they could have. Because Inhumans were like their big runaway hit at the time, and that they were trying to make because X-Men was owned by Fox.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now they're kind of stuck in a hole with Miss Marvel being an Inhuman.
Did you ever watch that show, by the way? Did you ever get through one episode?
Inhumans?
Yeah.
I watched a few episodes of it. I got through a few. I think I got through
one episode, dude.
I think I got
so
through.
bad.
I got about halfway through, I think, or like 4 episodes in or something, and I was like 3 or 4 in, and I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, it was so bad, dude.
See, when you're doing a show about superpowered people, when most of them lose their powers by the end of the first episode.
Yeah.
Black Bolt can't use his power in case he destroys everything. Medusa can control her hair as if it's an extension of her body. Gets her head shaved. Karnak can see all the weaknesses and stuff. Hits his head. Gets a concussion. Can't use his power. What's if Gorgon has massive goat legs and this massive strong power. Oh, but I'm going to put on fake legs so humans recognise me. Right. Triton, the fish dude, looks like he's dead for the first few episodes. Crystal, she can control the weather, but she basically looks human. So you've got a superpower show without superpowers. Fantastic.
Good luck.
Yeah, and I always had my big thing for that was always I heard, I think it was Professor Thorgy talking about it, and he said the problem with the villain in it, who's like the guy who's like has no powers, the brother that's got no powers, is trying to overthrow the royalty and the Inhumans, and trying to bring up, like, you know, they kind of like tried to push under the rug that the Inhumans are like are a royalty that have like slaves and stuff like that, because they don't really want to talk about slaves, but like he's trying to get these people out of the mines and make more even stuff for people, and then it's like, in any other show he'd be a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately he'd be the guy you're cheering for, but you're wanting me to boo him and cheer on this monarchy that's clearly abusing all these people and doing all this horrible stuff. And I'm like,
yeah,
it's basically an excuse for the whole crew to go on vacation to Hawaii. Even that, there's no reason for it to be there except for that. And it's like, sorry, we're getting a bit of a tangent there. There's this space so wild. We're getting a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, like, I am not as excited for the upcoming shows as I should be.
Yeah, I think
I'm excited for movies, but I'm like Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm kind of excited for Black Panther. I want to see how they go with that, because we don't have Black Panther anymore. You know, R.I.P. Chadwick. But
I have a feeling that the shows are going to be inconsequential. The movies are going to be what's pushing the narrative forward. And I think, in my opinion, if you're going to have the shows, if you're going to have this expansion of the quote-unquote narrative, you should add to the overarching narrative.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be so separate that it has no impact.
Well, that's it. It should feel like that, even if you don't like tie into the MCU directly, like, you don't need to reference all the heroes and stuff like that. But it feels like stuff that happens should have an effect. Like, stuff that happens in the movie should have an effect. Like, I kind of felt sorry for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for this, but they kind of at least did it in the first few seasons. Of like, stuff would happen and it would show them doing, like, working around stuff that happened, like Thor: Dark World, and then they're in the UK trying to help clean up and stuff.
Yeah.
Winter Soldier happened and like S.H.I.E.L.D. was disbanded, so they had to do an underground thing after that, which kind of screwed the show over a little bit, but you know.
Yeah.
But to see that, like, something happens in the world and at least affects, like, do you think anyone's going to reference the fact of like, hey, did you see the sky spinning last night? That was nuts.
Dude, it went through like a 1,000 years of nights.
You know what I mean? Like, the stars are literally going across the sky like this, and it's like, is anyone going to reference that? Probably not. Like, same with Eternals to a certain extent. There is now a celestial part way coming out of the Earth's ocean.
There's a giant robot man sticking out of the ocean.
His head and his fingers are coming out, and he is now a massive rock that is just there.
Yeah.
At any point, do you think anyone's going to reference that, or even show it like on a TV screen or something? A year on from the creature that started rising out of the water.
Space Hope said, "Did you see the new info about Black Panther 2 and how they're changing Namor's backstory?" I did hear about that.
I don't even know if they're doing Namor at this point, because I've heard so many conflicting things. Like, because
they definitely are.
Are they definitely doing it? Because I heard rumors of people saying like, "Oh, we're not doing Namor anymore."
They've actually cast the person, and I believe he's.
I saw something about the language, like trying to do the language for Atlantis is going to be based on something, and that was the first time I'd ever seen like a name attached to playing Namor in this.
So let me actually look it up. So basically, instead of being from Atlantis, Namor is actually going to be from. There's a Mexican city, and I forgot what it's called. But it basically was built around water. That's what they're going to go with. They've released concept images of him, like in the garb and all that stuff. And I don't know. Like, I was never a huge Namor fan.
You know, we're not doing Atlantis. I will bet money it's to differentiate him from Aquaman.
Oh, no question about it. I guess it kind of makes sense. Even though Namor came first.
Yeah.
In the comics. Aquaman the movie came first, so there's inevitably going to be comparisons, right? I always thought Namor looked Asian in the comics, so I would have appreciated another Asian like character.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get it. It makes sense. Like, it makes sense why they would change the origins from the comics. But if you're a huge Namor fan, I can see why you would be upset.
Yeah, and it's like, I think that's the thing. Like, I'm more a case of like the whole like changing the Atlantis thing. Because the whole point he's meant to be like from Atlantis, but he's also a mutant. He ties into the X-Men and all this stuff, and there's all this stuff for Namor, and it's like my worriment is they're just going to shoehorn him in here with these changes. And it's going to be something around the Eternals. Some of the Mayans branch off or something. Well, that'd be cool if they actually tied in Eternals and stuff like that a little bit to it. And
Canuck Muerta. Canuck Muerta is the name of it. Who's going to be playing
Quarta. And I'm like, so like, I'm intrigued to see what they do with it, but like, I'm honestly like, I guess that's my thing. Is like, there's so many other things coming out now, and it's like, and I'm getting honestly hyped for them. Like The Boys dropping this week, I was honestly hyped for that. I just finished watching season 2 not too long ago as well, so that might have added to the hype. But like, I was excited to see where it goes and stuff.
Yeah.
And to see what they did with it. Like, I'm excited to check out some of the stuff, and it's like, with Marvel, I'm like, I don't know, I just have a feeling of apprehension a little bit, because like, I don't know where they're going, and I don't know what the quality of stuff's going to be like now, and I honestly feel like we're at a place where it's like, I'm waiting for Marvel to kind of get back on track a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just feels like it's a grab bag of like, it could go 50-50 at this point of if something's worth checking out or not.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really telling once Thor comes out, what happens after that.
Oh, it's no chance we're getting a White Wolf, because they use White Wolf to reference Bucky, and that's his name to the Wakandans now, so they're never going to do a White Wolf thing, especially now that Chadwick Boseman's passed away. Because the whole thing is that the White Wolf was like the white brother of T'Challa in the comics, and it's like now with Chadwick gone and White Wolf being used for Bucky and their name for him, it's like there.
Yeah.
They're never going to properly do White Wolf, and if they ever use it, it'll be for Bucky, which I still think they should be calling him anyway. They don't get why he still gets called Winter Soldier, but
yeah, that is kind of weird.
But like, I'm excited but apprehensive.
Yeah,
it's probably the best way to describe how I feel. Like,
I'm in the same boat. Yeah,
I think Doctor Strange was a lesson in take something at face value for what it is. That it's going to fit into its own narrative, and wait and see when and if it fits into the greater narrative. Because my hope is that they're building a new narrative up to something. And it's one of those things that when we get down the line, whenever the next big team up thing is, or build up or crossover is, that I'll be like, oh, all this stuff comes together, all this stuff fits together. And
yeah,
that's my hope. I don't know if that'll be what happens. Sorry, I thought it was going to have a dry. But it's like, I'm openly apprehensive but excited. I mean, this Marvel, chances are I'm probably going to take it in as it is. I don't feel like I'm at the place where I was like if you told me like during phase 2 or phase 3 about upcoming Marvel projects where I'd be like, I'm sold completely. You know, it's like but I'm excited for it. Like I feel like I think my big thing though is, like I said, it's just how many projects there are. I think that's going to be a big factor going forward, but they just seem to keep wanting to put stuff in, and I feel like it's a detriment to their own stuff that's going on. Like even coming up, like I feel like with the Mandalorian or like Book of Boba Fett, when it dropped, like they slotted it in so that it didn't clash with Marvel shows at the time. So like when the Marvel shows ended, it was literally like a week break and Book of Boba Fett started.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're even now overlapping because they've just got too many shows to fit in now.
Yeah.
Like we're literally 3 episodes into Obi-Wan. Episode 4 will be dropping this week. And we're already into Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel drops this week too.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel episode 1 drops, and it's like we're already like hitting our next big show. And it's clashing, and it's like, I know they're trying to get all of our attention and trying to get all this stuff over there, and don't get me wrong, the stuff they're doing is amazing for the most part on some of these shows. Like, you know, like Mandalorian's coming out in February. I'm hyped.
Awesome.
You know, I'm excited to finally catch up with Obi-Wan. I've not watched it yet, but I've heard nothing but good stuff. I'm excited to finally catch up on that one.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there's so much going on. There's only so much media I can take in.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, like when I do have days off where I just have time where I can kind of do whatever. I'm like, dude, I have like a backlog of like 15 games that I haven't played. I have all these series that I haven't watched. I have these comics that I haven't read. I have these shows that I haven't watched. Just have a ton of stuff that has been on the back burner that I just haven't been able to do. Yeah,
well, that's it, because you've got life. You've got to work, and you've got to be with your family, and you've got to take care of your kids, and you know, spend time with your wife, and you know, it's like you've got a life that you've got to live. And then if you've got any hobbies or interests like this, I get grateful for Comics and Across half the time. It's the only reason I get through some of the backlog of stuff that I've got. Playing games and streaming, reading comics for this. It's like that's the only reason I get to do some of this stuff. It's because we get to do it for the show, and it's like eventually though, like there's got to be something's got to give. I can't take in every show. I can't take in every movie. I can't read every comic. I can't play every game. It's like there's so much good stuff out there, and it's like eventually though I'm going to have to start making choices. And if Marvel is still dropping stuff, like if it's not at the quality I'm expecting or wanting, I'm not always going to take it all in, you know. But then again, that's what the comics are like, you know. It's like you read certain comics and it's like you're never going to read every single issue of a series that Marvel drops. There's going to be some that you take on board and some that you don't.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be some that you read and you're like, this is a character I want to follow, and then there are others it's like, nah.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to end up being the same.
Yeah, I would agree.
What are your thoughts heading into Phase 4 then, as we continue on?
I feel like Thor is going to be the litmus for whether or not Marvel knows what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
With the wider narrative. I feel like, if anything, a god level narrative for a story should branch over into other aspects of the Marvel comic universe, or Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see once a trailer drops for Black Panther how that goes as well. We'll see.
Space Over, what Savage Avengers do you pick up and put on Discord? For the comic, issue 1. I think issue 2 drops.
I gotta get that from you, by the way.
Yeah, I need to get you that. But issue 2, I think, drops this week, next week, something like that. I saw Dave Pepper was doing. It's monthly issues out, so like issue 2 is about to drop soon. But yes, and a monthly one comes out. From Dave Pepper. It's well worth checking out. Dave Pepper's an awesome writer for the channel. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for our in-depth talk on this, because I don't think there's any other major points to hit on Doctor Strange.
No, I think we eviscerated it.
Yeah, I think overall it was a disappointment, but I don't think it was a disappointment for what it was completely.
It wasn't a bad movie.
I think it was a disappointment for what everyone expected.
Yes.
Because we all expected this massive spectacle. We all expected this massive thing. And it wasn't. It was very much a Doctor Strange story, and part of that's our bad. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. It says that it is on the tin. You know, it's a Doctor Strange story.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's definitely stuff where it's like this was not perfect in any way. This was not without issues. So decidedly average. And Phase 4, I'm still up in the air on. I'm definitely going to keep checking out the Marvel properties that come out, but it's like time will tell with this.
Yeah. I'm not excited about Miss Marvel, and I'm not excited about She-Hulk.
No.
So.
And this was my worriment. My worriment was that the after Endgame, they were going to drop the ball, and how were they going to capture people again? Because Endgame's the end of a story.
Yeah.
It was the end of like the Marvel story at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, they could have ended it at that point, the MCU as a whole, and I'd have been like, you know what, that was worth it. That was worth investing in all that time.
Yeah. Agreed.
And it's like, but now it's like, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best. If you guys are enjoying the MCU Phase 4 at this point, please let us know. Let us know what you're enjoying about it. Let us know what you got out of Doctor Strange. If you really enjoyed it, if you really hated it, let us know what you hated about it. You know, have the conversation with us and keep up with us on our social and our Discord to keep the conversation going. Goes up in chat. And keep the conversation going with us. But I think that's it for us talking about Doctor Strange today. Didn't want to spend too much time like wailing into stuff just because it has been so long since the movie came out. It's been about a month, and everything that needs to be said has been said for the most part.
It's already been said.
It's mostly just our point on it and where we think this is going. But yeah, this is a nice little chill one to get back into the swing of things. Glad to be back. We will be back next week again. At least that's the plan. We'll hopefully see. But we plan to be back next Sunday, where we will be back into our first indie comic book club in quite a while. It's been a little while since we've done one. Our lovely wives done one during the 12-hour stream, but we are going to be talking about Dominion. Fall of the House of Salt, Volume 1. We have talked to Dr. Bell on the channel. We have spent time with him and Daniel. We have done stuff with Terminus Media. They were gracious enough to send us copies of these to have a look at before we talk to them. But we've never really done in-depth spoilers or anything like that on the comic. So this is the opportunity to kind of do that. Because like we don't like to do it unless we're doing it in an indie comic book club in the trade where we can kind of go in-depth on stuff. So we will finally get the chance to do that and check out Dominion in full.
Yeah, man.
But nice to go back and delve into it again.
I gotta read it again.
I know.
It's been a while.
It's been a while since I read it, so that's be our thing for this week, is reading through that and getting ready. Make sure to head to Terminus Media's website to pick up your own copy, or you can get it on Amazon as well. Make sure to go and check it out and pick it up for yourself to join in the conversation. And coming up this week, we do have our full schedule back.
Sorry, I didn't mean to post that. I meant to post that, is what I meant to post.
I say D to you as well, sorry. But we'll be back as normal throughout this week. Jay will be back tomorrow night 8:30 doing her playthrough of Nancy Drew and the Curse of Blackmore Manor. A lot of you have been getting involved in that. Thank you so much for showing the support to it. So come along and check that out. I will be back on Tuesday night at 8:30 continuing Batman Arkham Knight. We have finished the main gameplay, but we are now delving into the DLC. We got partway through the Batgirl story DLC that takes place before the events of Arkham Knight. So we'll be continuing that, and if I can get that completed, we'll jump into the next one. Which will either be Harley Quinn, Nightwing, Red Hood, Robin, or Catwoman.
And I'll be back on Thursday with some Art of the Hero. We'll continue the work on Chunk's commission piece from the 12-hour stream, which we got a lot done last Thursday.
Which if you guys haven't seen that, check out in our Discord. It's amazing. It looks really good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, Nitro's done an amazing job on that, so come and check that out. And then of course it's Friday night, we'll be back 8:30, Sea of Thieves. I believe you're joining me for that one, Nitro.
Yes, sir.
That's the plan so far. If you want to get involved, we still have 2 spots on the crew for this week, so please come and get involved and join us for that. And the story adventure mode will be done by then, so we'll probably just be delving into some getting some loot, doing some missions, and just trying to continue to grow to be a pirate legend. But I think that's it pretty much for this week. I am going to jump on to Twitch. Yep, I knew that was going to jump on there and cover us. Let's head to Twitch and see who is online that we can show some love to. Don't know who's on today. It's been that long for been on a Sunday. Oh, just seen somebody playing Marvel Spider-Man. Looking forward to playing that on stream now that it's coming to PC. Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales. We'll definitely be doing those on a Tuesday night at some point.
Oh, it's Comic Story.
Yeah, Comic Historian's playing it.
See you, Space Obo.
Thank you, Space. Appreciate it, brother. You have a good day. Who is playing for Geeks Under Grace? Let's go show them some love. I see Cameron's playing on Cameron plus Deanna, but I know he also gets off fairly soon as well. He's not usually on that late. Okay, looks like they're doing a bit of Pokemon. We can go with them and show them some love. So we're going to go and raid Geeks Under Grace. So thank you so much for everyone joining us today. This has been a fun little chill conversation with y'all. Make sure to keep up with us, as we said, on social media and Discord. Also as well, go and pick up our merch. Let me show that in as well. So our new merch is still there and available. Go and check that out. But you all have an absolutely amazing Sunday. Jay will see you all tomorrow night. And remember, everyone, it is a good week to be a geek. Take care and have a good week, everyone. Peace.
Yeah.
Cierra miedo.